Whether you are brand new to production or you've been around for a while, there are a few mistakes I promise you you're going to want to avoid. So stick around. What's up, my good vibe DJ tribe? Today on the episode, I want to talk about 3 major producer mistakes a lot of us make. And as somebody that's been dabbling in and out of production for years, these mistakes have most definitely held myself back. And I remember when I first got back into production quite heavily, I wanted to make sure I wasn't making mistakes that were going to hold me back. So here are the few things that I implemented into my production sessions. And I believe it's probably going to be some stuff that you need to start avoiding right now. So let's jump into the 3 things that you may want to start avoiding when you jump into your production music sessions. Number 1, avoid perfectionism. Perfectionism is another form of procrastination. And if you do this in your sessions, you're going to find yourself wasting a lot of time, interrupting your creative process, and never really releasing any material. So for example, if you are trying to perfect that kick drum and you spend 2 hours on it, and then you try to jump back into the rest of the music making process of your track, your melody, your synths, your sub bass, you might find that the kick that you originally made doesn't work for the track. So you've technically wasted time trying to perfect something that's just not going to work with the rest of your material. You may be interrupting the creative process because while you might have had a really great drum pattern going, it may have exhausted your ears continuing to listen to that kick drum. And again, it's not the best management of your time. Number 2, avoid sound design sessions with your music production sessions. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you are using a new plugin, then do a sound design session on learning that plugin. Do not try to learn that plugin while you are in the middle of creating a track, because again, it's going to interrupt that creative flow. Now you're on YouTube falling down the rabbit hole of information, and then an hour later you come back to your session and maybe you're not in that creative space anymore. Maybe you're not really digging what you've got going on with your track, and maybe you are overwhelmed with information about your DAW because you've spent all this time researching how to use this plugin that ended up with another plugin, that ended up with another plugin, that ended up with another plugin, that ended up with, it just keeps going. Number 3, avoid not finishing tracks. Why? Well, even if you never use that track in an EP or send it out to labels, it's still a habit that you're building, and you want to be in the habit of finishing the projects that you start so that you actually do eventually finish projects. Or else you end up being that producer that has 150 projects that are half done, and then you're opening up another one, and guess what? Not finishing that one either. So to recap, avoid perfectionism. Make sure that you do sound design sessions away from your music making sessions. And last but not least, make sure you're finishing those tunes so that you can start actually releasing material, people. On next week's episode, we are going to talk about how to get creative in the studio, because sometimes we don't really know where to start. With the drum, with the synth, with the sub bass, who knows? Where are we going? Where do we find inspiration from? How do I create instruments that work with other instruments in my track? That's next week. Let me know what other things you want to hear about production-wise in this series. If I know it, I will try my best to explain it. And if I don't know it, maybe I can research it a little bit and give you some how-do-you-dos or how-tos, something like that.